Hello, welcome to Watercolor Cards. I am Lisa Christensen and I am going to share with you how I paint with watercolor markers. They are so much fun and I use them all the time in my art practice. When I start, I always cut my paper to the 4¼ by 5½, and then I use my stamp positional tool with the stamp set, Furry Friends from Tailored Expressions, and I am making sure that they are perfect on my positioning tool. I love my Misty. I use it all the time, and I'll use the black archival ink Oreo to stamp it because I know it's bleed proof and waterproof, and I will do the same thing for the two different card panels that I'm going to make for you. Alright, so Karin brush markers are my favorite. In my bag I always have my watercolor brush, and then I have all the colors from the Karin markers that I just love, and I like having all the colors and I take them with me and I pick out the ones that I enjoy using. And so what you'll see me do is I'll have my swatches ready to go and I can start actually watercoloring. Alright, so I chose rosewood for the base. I am using a watercolor media mat to just add the ink to it, and you can tell that the watercolor media mat is a little bit stained, but it's well loved and I love it. Alright, for the bear, I just want to do a wet into wet technique where I wet the watercolor, and now I can just kind of move that little bit of watercolor around the page to get a really cute little watercolor effect for the bear. And now I'm going to go in with a little bit darker. This is Cocoa, the color Cocoa from Karin Markers. And I'm just going to add that. And I'm going to add a little bit more to the bear's ears. And it's a push and pull with watercolor. I just want to get the bear started because the bear is the cutest part of the card, but I wanted the background to match kind of a beautiful look to it. And I started getting a bloom, so I wanted to add all the water that needed to be, so I didn't have that bloom. And then I'm going in with that rosewood, and I just want to give the bear's belly a little bit darker. Now I'm using the Cocoa just a little bit, and because I did that, I'm going to have to do that to the nose. And I like watching the watercolor just kind of move on the paper, but sometimes I need a little bit more help, so I use my brush. And I'm going to let that dry, and then I will go on to my next color. I wanted a really pretty red for the sleigh, and it's looking quite lovely right now, so I'm very actually happy with how this is turning out. Anyways, no tricks here, just a simple get the color blocked in, and you'll see that it is seeping into the brown of the bear, but that's okay. And now I'm going to do the scarf, and I'm only going to do a little bit. I'm going to leave some of that white because I can blend it into the paper, and I wanted my nose to be a little bit more pronounced. And now I'm just taking a clean damp brush and I'm blending that watercolor together so it looks red. And now I'm going to try my hardest to get that red out, and I make the bear darker because I didn't want the red to be part of it. And there's that. Alright, what I'm doing now is I'm going in with a wet brush and I'm adding my background. And so what will happen is then I will add my like a blue to the sky. I'm making the sky, I want it to look snowy, so I'm adding some blue there and some blue there, and that's going to be my sky. I'm creating a background, a very simple background, and I'm just coloring. And I feel like that's pretty good, so I'm going to let the ink and it's actually ink, but the watercolor brush markers are made with ink pigment. So I'm letting the watercolor just kind of move all around the paper just so I can get a nice pretty view of that. And it's looking good. It's a good start. You'll see I'm using a dark purple, I believe it's lavender, and I'm just adding that in. I wanted like a evening sunset almost. Or maybe they were up all night and now it's the sunrise. I don't know. But I just wanted some purple in it. And so all I do really is just add the watercolor to the sky, and then I use my damp brush and I move the water around just to get the look that I'm looking for. And I kind of moved the watercolor too much, so I'm adding a little bit more to it, and I'll add more water to blend it. But you don't always know on the first layer. And that's all there is. And now I'm looking at it and I am wanting a little bit of the color to go down into the snow, but I decided that I needed a paper towel. Softening the edge, and I'm kind of letting the watercolor do its thing. I'm not really adding a whole lot of extra. I did get the little bit of the red kind of, I wanted the red to be in the snow a little bit because it is red, and in nature you would have the snow would reflect that color. It's not perfect, but it's something. And then I'm just adding some of that purple into the blue, so it's just like a reflect. I wanted a second layer of the bear just to give it a bit more dark to it, and so I'm going to let some music play and you can watch me paint. I'm not going to do anything different, it's just the same. So while I'm painting, I thought I would share some of my favorite reasons why I like to use Karin markers instead of other watercolor mediums. And really, it comes down to convenience. I really love that they are in a marker form, that I can put them on a blendable palette like you see what I'm doing, and I can just paint like watercolor, and I can get a really light wash and I can get a really dark wash pretty simply and not too hard. I can also glaze, and I can use these watercolor markers as if I am using a regular marker. So those are some of the reasons why I would choose a Karin marker over maybe other markers. However, I also know that Karin markers are great for brush lettering, which I have used a little bit with those, but I really love using them for illustration, and they're made for illustration markers, and they're just fun. If you're a nature journaler, I would definitely suggest Karin markers, as they can really help you in your nature journaling as well. I'm just going around and just kind of adding a little bit more color to this cute little reindeer. I don't want to add too much, I just want enough to kind of make it look super cute. And because it's watercolor, I'm okay that it bleeds into a little bit. I think that's sometimes the fun of watercolor that we don't always get to use, is the spontaneity that watercolor brings. And right now I'm just blending my brush. I just love the different values you can get just from simply adding some pigment onto the paper. I am cleaning out some of the edges, and I noticed that the reindeer needs a little bit more definition, so I'm just going back in and making that happen. And then you'll see me add a little bit more of that yellow ochre right there to the head, because I wanted the reindeer to have a little bit more warmth to it. Just my preference. Anyways, if you found this video to be at all helpful, please like my video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am trying really hard to create new content that I think my users would love, and I appreciate your support. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just adding a little bit of shadow kind of where I think the light would be. It's not like by any means perfection or even perfect. I don't actually know where the light is, but I liked having a little bit of an anchor, and maybe it's shadows from where they're like in the snow, right? Like I just needed something to like pull them down, and I wanted the snow to reflect the night sky. And so there you have it. There's the cards. So I don't always know when to stop, and I always try to tell myself to stop like 20% before you think it's done, and I go back in and just make my grays darker, which helps, and then I'll just keep blending and making things darker that I think needs to be darker. You did not have to do this, but it does work. There's the finished product, and I'm so grateful that you guys are watching this. I love watercolor markers, so happy painting, everyone.